Have you ever heard yourself saying, I need you to stop talking now, you need to stop doing that. I need a drink, I need a bar of chocolate. We call them needs, but actually they're strategies, and they are quite different, and that is what we are going to unpick in this film. We all have needs, and interestingly, they are the same for everyone, no matter where we come from, how old we are, our sex, gender, or any other things that help to define us. They are universal, and we can all recognise them.
There are actually dozens of them, and we've noticed a few that when they aren't met seem to be underneath a lot of the big uncomfortable feelings we feel and a lot of the difficulty in relationships and families. These are the ones that we see a lot of. We'd like you to have a think about how important they are for you and how you feel when they aren't met. So, to be heard, first of all, how do you feel when people are really listening to you? And how do you feel when you're not being heard? The same with autonomy, to be able to choose your own way and to try out your own solutions. How does it feel to be able to choose your own way and try out things on your own? And in comparison, how does it feel when you can't do those things?
It's likely that you feel comfortable, happy feelings when those needs are met, and uncomfortable, sad or frustrated feelings when they aren't. We're all trying to get these needs and others met pretty much all of the time, and sometimes they are and sometimes they're not. Sometimes it's okay that they're not met. We might want to put someone else's needs ahead of our own, or it might just not be important at that particular time. But sometimes it is really important, almost like our life depends on it, and then these big feelings can be quite overwhelming if our needs are not met either by ourselves or by others. For something so important, you'd think, maybe, that we could simply say, I have a need for peace, and that's not being met at the moment. I would like your help. Specifically, could you do X, Y, and Z? That rarely happens, and instead we find ourselves trying to get those needs met in quite tragic ways. For instance, how often, in an attempt to be heard, do we find ourselves shouting? I'm not sure I know anyone who wants to listen to people who are shouting, so that's what we mean by a tragic attempt to meet a need. It's pretty much guaranteed to do the exact opposite, which can then set us off on this spiral of big uncomfortable feelings and conflict.
There's sometimes when people try to communicate what they need, it comes out sounding like moaning, a bit like this.
I'm fed up of the same thing every morning when I'm trying to get the kids to school. They know what they should be doing, eating food, cleaning teeth, getting shoes on and bags ready. But most days we end up rushing and one of them's crying or angry and doesn't want to get in the car, and it's just so exhausting. And sometimes we are late, even though they know what time we have to be out of the door to get there at the right time.
What do you hear? Someone just going on and on and on, right? Well, here's another chance to take a pause, take a breath, and practice listening for the need behind the moan. So what I heard there was that it's important to Olivia that things are calm and go smoothly and everyone has a good start to their day. I hear a need for some order and for Olivia as a mum to be appreciated, and that the children see that how she feels is important too.
This takes practice, but it's powerful. I've worked with children who have kicked off and trashed rooms and hurt themselves. A really common reaction from adults might be anger about the damage caused, a judgment that the child's out of control, is attention-seeking, is manipulative, and so on. What is actually going on is a child using strategies that have worked to some degree to meet their need for attention because they don't know how else to do it. Remember in the first film, we talked about children doing well when they can, when they have the skills to be able to. This is another tragic attempt to tell the world about a need to be heard, to feel safe, to belong and to feel appreciated. Unfortunately, a more likely outcome is punishment and exclusion, which takes the child even further away from their need being met. Listening for the needs can break that cycle. Listen through the moan and listen behind it.
So how many of you have ever said you need a bar of chocolate or a drink or a holiday? Well, strictly speaking, chocolate, drinks and holidays aren't the needs, but they're very common strategies to meet a variety of needs. So for instance, relaxation, harmony, peace, fun, but they're not needs in themselves. Being able to recognise the difference between needs and strategies to meet them is a really useful skill, because it means that we can open up the possibility of finding new, perhaps safer or healthier ways to meet our needs, instead of getting stuck in imagining that only one thing will work. And many people, including children and young people, get into habits in the way they get their needs met that can be confusing and worrying to other people observing. So, things like self-harming, misuse of alcohol and other drugs, risk-taking behaviour, defiance, running away, self-isolation. They're all strategies that have developed over time to try and meet these needs. Sadly, in many ways, the fix is only ever temporary and potentially really damaging.
And most of that comes out of some stories we have been told about feelings and emotions being good or bad and positive or negative. When we describe feelings that way, it would be understandable to try and get rid of the bad or negative feelings as quickly as possible. It would also be understandable to think that you were somehow bad in yourself if you were feeling the bad emotions. The good news is that all emotions, the comfortable and the uncomfortable ones, are just telling us whether or not these needs have been met. When we think about them that way, we can welcome them in, as they all have something important to tell us.
So just like we were saying that all behaviour's a gift, all our feelings are a gift too. It's okay to feel all of them. And when other people are feeling those big uncomfortable feelings, we don't need to rescue them from the experience or try and stop that happening. We can acknowledge what someone is feeling, welcome it, and wonder what need is sitting underneath.
This is a big idea to get our heads round. Our top tip is to remember that no one's needs are any more or less important than anyone else's. What we have seen, though, are two ends of that spectrum. Either where parents or carers try to meet all of their children's needs for them and sacrifice meeting their own, or where adult needs always come before children's needs. What we're encouraging here is a way to strike a balance and move away from the winning and the losing.